Well, hi everyone, this is Bronnie here again for another day in Bronnie's World. And I have my lovely cousin here, Jean, who turned 100 on Saturday. You've seen a post I put up for that. And it's Mindset Monday. And it's day 1039, I think. Not in me up. We'll just check that before I put it up. Anyway, I thought Jean is the perfect one for a Mindset Monday thought, because you've got to have a pretty good mindset to get to 100 years of age, and she still has all her faculties about her. She may be in hospital through no fault of her brain. So, Jean, what's a good Mindset Monday tip you would give people to help them get to 100 years of age?
Work hard.
Work hard. Well, yes.
Work hard, John. Yeah. I worked hard all my life. Like, we were farm kids and we had to pull our weight on the farm, and then I always wanted to be a teacher, and everybody was geared for me to be a teacher. And then Dad said, girls only get married anyway. So I didn't go to high school. And when I went back to school after the Christmas holidays, you had to do the 7th year if you didn't go to high school. You did 6 years, and then you went to high school if you were fortunate enough. But there were no buses in those days. You had to board. Dad had to take us to Johns River Station. We had to catch a train from Johns River to Taree, walk to the high school, and then we would have boarded with an auntie in Fotheringham Street. And Dad says that girls only get married anyway. It was the only thing my father ever crossed me with, I think, because Mum was dead, so she died when I was only young. And but I had some good years. I worked at the day nursery in Taree for 5 years. I worked at Dada's for nearly 30 years. So I had a good innings.
And you raised two really lovely kids.
Yes, I raised two lovely kids, and I have John's trying to say something.
How many grandkids you got?
3 granddaughters, and 2 a boy, great grandson, and a girl, great granddaughter, who is 8, going on 18.
As they are these days.
Oh, she's a trick. I saw them for my birthday. They were up here at Sue's, so that was nice too. That's about it.
Yes, and you have a love for the Lord as well.
Yes.
Yeah. And I think God's blessed you with
Well,
100 wonderful years, hasn't He?
Yes, I did a lot of work too. I was primary leader, which is under 8s at our church for many years.
And I remember that Jean actually helped my mum with the jury reunions and books and things. So family history, she's all into that.
I went down to
Miss Darlene?
thank you, dear. I went down to Old Bar, and Dorothy and I worked out the book. We have a jury book, John. When did he left? I don't think, were there?
Well, Mum had some extras done, and
Did
so
she?
I've got a few boxes at home. So anyone interested in? Look, it's great history, even though there's a lot of history happened since then.
Yeah.
It's that's there, and we can add
It's
to it.
nearly time we had another one. That was
97.
1997.
Yeah.
So that's 3. What are we up to?
2022.
Of course. Of course. 22, 25. That's 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's
Well,
time,
Mum's been good 20 years almost.
it's time somebody got themselves off their butt and started another family. We had breweries everywhere, John. Over at we had it at the showground, and starting from the oldest of uncle, auntie, sisters. There was one girl in that family and 10 boys.
Yeah.
Grandma had one girl and 10 boys, and we had
And you and I come down to two of the different boys.
yeah, there were three Bignell girls married 3 Drury boys. That's right, isn't it?
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and they were sisters too, I believe. Big sisters. Married big Drury brothers.
Yes, Auntie Lena was a Bignell.
Yeah.
Auntie Alma was a Bignell. And Auntie Kate was a Bignell. I'm right, aren't I?
Yes.
Auntie Kate and Uncle Jonas didn't have any family, but everybody's children were welcome to go there and board to get to high school. It was pretty big of Uncle Jonas and Auntie Kate, I think. They were good, very good to all of us. Uncle Jonas was an agent for one of the insurance companies, and he would get his bike and put it on the train, come from Taree to Johns River Station, ride his bike up Johns River Road to Hannibal, which wasn't an easy road, and he would sell insurances to people. We told him we always came right on dinner time on a Monday.
There was purpose for that, wasn't there?
I'll
He knew which side his bread was buttered on.
I'll tell you who else used to come too, the man that bought the pigs. He always came on a Monday, and he always arrived at the Drury place at lunchtime. We must have served. Mum was a stickler for sameness. We always had the same meals the same day each week. You know, Monday we'd have, because Sunday was a day of rest, there was no dinner cooked. You had a hot baked dinner on Saturday, and then on Sunday you had your meat cold and cold dinner, because you'd been to church and it was a day of rest. It wasn't a day of cooking. I'm afraid I broke that rule, didn't I? Yeah. I think we had pretty good years for the. Dad was fortunate, I think, that he had his own farm.
Yeah.
There weren't many men that had the money to have their own farm, but Dad was 32 when he was married. He was a bachelor then, and Mum had been a Salvation Army officer and stationed at Taree, and he fell in love with her, and he asked her would she marry him, and she said no, because she had been called to be a Salvation Army officer and she had to fulfil that calling. Now she went on to wasn't Roma, but it was one of those, Charleville. She was the officer at Charleville, and my dad was a bit persistent, and she was at the station at Kingaroy. Kingaroy was closer to the coast. You'd know where Kingaroy is. And my mum was conducting the service on the Sunday night at Kingaroy. And my dad had taken a cousin of his up to Maryborough to marry her fiancé, right? And when he had left her there, he went across country. However, I don't know, because we wouldn't have had a car in those days. Well, he wasn't married either. But he arrived in the meeting on the Sunday night at Kingaroy, just as my mother was about to preach, and nearly had knocked off her pins. And I tell you what, it took a lot to knock my mother off her pins. And so she thought, not very romantic, John, but she thought if Dad loved her that much, that she'd better marry him. So they were married at Grandma's house in Pittsworth, and then of course she had to give up being a Salvation Army officer, and they lived at Lansdowne. Yes, they lived in the old home because Dad looked after his mother for a long time, and they lived on a property at Lansdowne. And then when Dad got married, every boy didn't take their turn, but a lot of them took a turn at having Grandma one for a month. But because she kept saying that Lena was married to Lena was married to Uncle Andrew, wasn't she? Am I right?
Yeah, he was Thomas Andrew, yeah.
Lena and Andrew.
With who I come down.
Yeah. Grandma kept saying that they were living in sin because she got her mixed up with her sister, who was also married to a Drury boy, see. There were 3 Bignell girls married 3 Drury boys. And Auntie Lena couldn't stand it. And so, because she wouldn't have her turn, Mum had her 2 months. And she became very wandery. if we didn't watch her, she would get out and be down the road, which was very dangerous because the big log trucks went between Hannah Vale and Johns River Station, and but she lived with us for the 2 months, and she had a set on the twins. I had twin brothers, John, and they were 3 years younger than me. And if they didn't do what Grandma said, she would get their heads and bump them together. It's a wonder they stood it. It's a wonder they didn't hit her back, knowing them.
But that old saying, if you don't behave yourself, bang your heads together.
Yeah, well, she did that. And Mum had always had her for 2 months because Auntie Lena couldn't stand her calling her, "Why does Jonas live with Andrew's wife?" See? Because they were 2 brothers married 2 sisters. It was a catch.
I think they looked a lot alike too, didn't they?
They did.
Yeah.
Yes, they did. The 3 of them did.
Mm.
Alma, I didn't know Auntie Alma as much as I knew Kate and Lena. We were brought up, John, half Salvation Army, half Methodist. My mum had been a Salvation Army officer. Dad was Methodist. And those days, the Methodist lay preachers used to go a different circuit each Sunday, and they'd do Common Yarra and Lansdowne together, or one after the other, and then they would have dinner at Auntie Lena and Uncle Andrew's.
And then I know when we were growing up, they used to have it at our place.
Yeah. Well, I went. Billy Lee wanted a special song sung this day that he was preaching. They preached the same service, Sir John, at each church, and there were 4 or 5 times a day you'd be at the church, but you'd hear the same sermon. So he wanted this special song sung, and he asked Dad if I could go with him, which I suppose was a big thing in those days for a single person to travel with a married man. But anyway, Dad said yes, I could go. And what else could he say? If he said no, it looked as though you were pointing the finger at the preacher, didn't it? And then we'd go to Auntie Lena's for dinner. And then we'd go on to Cundletown and Jones Island. Yes, Jones Island and Cundletown were teamed together because they were fairly close to. I'll tell you what, it was a big Sunday, wasn't it?
Yeah. I remember Dad was a lay preacher, and when it was his turn, it was quite a big circuit to do.
Yes, they did.
Mm. And the roads were not like what they are today.
No.
It's harder to get around.
And the minister at the time, we always had a minister and a Salvation Army officer. There were two officers stationed at Kendall, which is a little place near, you turn off where Auntie Judy lives, works. That's right, am I saying that right? And
Got it good.
The officers used to come over on a Friday In the early days, they had a sulky with 2 horses. There might only been 1 horse. And they would come from Kendal, and one weekend they'd stay at Hoppers, and the next weekend they'd stay at the Drury's, right from Friday till Tuesday. So that was nearly a week, wasn't it?
Yeah, close enough.
Yeah, close enough. Oh dear, the things that we did.
Now the truth's coming out.
Yeah. But I never hooked one of them.
Well, obviously you weren't meant to.
No. Ron was Methodist. So they went to the little Methodist church. It's a house now.
The one at Central Lansdowne.
And it's Hannah Vale.
Oh, okay, yeah. The one at Central Lansdowne's a house now too.
Yeah, and I think what was the army buildings, they've been closed too, and they'd probably sell them for a house as well, because there were 2 buildings attached cornerways, and they were near the school ground.
Yeah, that's right. At Hannah they are.
Yeah. Who's that bird?
Hmm?
That lady was looking for you.
Oh, was she?
Yeah.
I'll catch her. I don't think I know who it is.
Oh, it was somebody for you. But it's all a long time ago now. But these Sundays I used to go with Billy Lee to sing his song for him, because he wanted this special song sang in his services.
Do you remember the name of the song?
Yes, Jesus is standing in Pilate's Hall.
I'm going to look that up.
Yeah, it was an Easter song, and yeah, they were good days though. As I said, the days that the officers weren't at Hannah Vale, there was my mother and 2 Lock brothers and Dave Hopper, and they would preach on the Sunday that the officers weren't there. We always had church and Sunday school, and I, in later years as I was getting older, I took Sunday school, and we'd have beautiful concerts for our anniversaries up in the hall. But everybody's kids came to Sunday school, whether they were belonged or not, you know?
Yeah, they did.
Yes, they did.
They did when I was growing up too. It was
They
just
did,
the
yeah.
thing you did.
Yeah.
Which was good. Yeah. Well,
Anyway, that's me.
and what a great story that's been. Well, thank you all for listening and catching up with Auntie Jean. So happy birthday.
The awful hairdo.
Happy 100th birthday, and may God bless you with many more to come. She's a bit worried because the hairdresser can't come in here and do
Yeah,
her
the
hair.
hair's terrible.
But anyway, as I ask you all really nicely here in Bronnie's World, is to stay safe, stay informed, be empowered, but do not live in fear, my friends. And when you have a cousin or any relative and get to spend the time with someone who is 100 years of age, take the time, guys. You will be powerful, beautiful, brilliant, and most definitely very brave. And thank you, Jean, for such a wonderful story.
Yeah, well,
I always love hearing your stories when we get together. It's
Yeah.
something different every time, even if it is a year or 2 apart. Well, thank you very much, and I'll catch you again here tomorrow in Bronnie's World. God bless.